I have never, ever seen a Congress that seems so out of touch with its voters on both sides. They are now routinely ignoring the views of who they represent, and that includes Republicans. They've convinced Republicans and Democrats that they have literally no choice but to vote for their party. Whether they feel betrayed or not, they constantly say, who are you going to vote for? A Republican? Or are you going to vote for a Democrat? And so we find ourselves in the sort of throes of this red state, blue state paradigm, and there's no escape. And that's the reason there's this disconnect, because they have a monopoly over the political system.
Why should we fire Congress? Because they use the Constitution of the United States as a scrap of paper. They swear an oath to follow it, and then they reject it. That was their employment document. They haven't followed it. Congressmen, senators, you're fired.
Washington, you're fired!
Washington, you're fired.
Washington, D.C., you're fired.
I work with Republicans and Democrats to get things done.
If I was asked to sit down with the President, Vice President, their staff, Congress, and the Senate, and why would I give them their walking papers? It would basically be this. They are not serving the interests of the people at large anymore.
When the Founding Fathers created the country, they didn't start with the Constitution. They finished with the Constitution. They started with the change. They started with getting the people in power who were causing problems out of power.
The founders of this country weren't particularly interested in political parties. They called them the factions, and they thought they would be the destruction of the country.
Firstly, I would get rid of every lobbyist in these United States. No more lobbyists.
We have got to hold Congress' feet to the fire. They are the only government entity authorized to declare war on another nation.
I don't know why we're there. I think it's a lie. It has nothing to do with 9/11.
I think our government needs one big enema from the top to the bottom. A lot of people in this country are under the false impression that we have two political parties. Well, there is very little difference between the Democrats and Republicans.
These Democrats that were elected last night are conservative Democrats.
Republican impersonations.
What's an Arnold Republican?
Well, it's basically being fiscally conservative, being socially moderate, and being environmentally progressive.
So I've been telling you that I believe people cast their vote for something, not against it.
Evangelical Christians turned out in droves, driven in part by a desire to support a flurry of constitutional amendments banning same-sex marriage.
Healthcare,
border security,
national security, and the economy, on the war in Iraq, abortion.
I see Democrats attacking Republicans for their weird sex life.
You know, ultimately, Tucker, I don't think it ends up changing any votes.
Sectarian violence. Democrats are divided.
The withdrawal of American forces from Iraq.
A precipitous withdrawal would be injurious to the United States. I think most people agree with that.
The one thing that's not credible, as the National Review pointed out, is stay the course.
It's true that Republican leadership put our country in this mess. But let's not forget that both Republicans and Democrats signed their names to bills that killed the U.S. Constitution. Both parties have jointly put our Bill of Rights in jeopardy, and now they want your vote. You've probably heard it said that voters don't go to the polls to vote against something. They go there to vote for something. So what are you going there to vote for? Abortion, gas prices, gay marriage, Social Security, taxes, health care, immigration? Well, guess what? The people of this country have a decision to make, and let me just lay it out for you. We no longer have the luxury of bringing our social issues with us into the voting booths. Whether you're a man or a woman, gay or straight, conservative, liberal, or otherwise, from this point forward, when you go to the ballot box to cast your vote, you'll either be voting for freedom or against it. It's that simple. Our social issues in this country have been completely overshadowed by an increasingly tyrannical ideology growing from within our own political system. This infection began with the Republicans, but our problem stems from the fact that it didn't end with our Democrats. If we hope to rescue our republic, all of our attention, all of our efforts must be concentrated on repairing the damage done to our Constitution over the past decade. If you can find a Democrat or a Republican who can do that, then by all means, I encourage you to vote for them. Americans have been led to believe that they only have two choices, to vote for a Republican or to vote for a Democrat. Any deviation is met with certain claims of wasting your vote. Well, let me ask you a question. If voting for a Republican or a Democrat yields the same disastrous blow to the U.S. Bill of Rights, aren't you wasting your vote anyway? We need leaders who will observe the rule of law and leave all of the interpretations to the judiciary branch of our government. This country needs men and women who will put the rights of the sovereign people over the privileges of corporations and power grabs by presidents. We must have political candidates who will stand before the American people and pledge that they will go to Washington and fight for the restoration of our civil liberties. And then we need them to go to Washington and with the utmost conviction make their promises a reality. When the citizens of this country finally wake up and realize the constitutional crisis that we are in, then and only then will we see men and women of true character and true honor racing to meet the test of history. Our only criteria for these offices of public servants is that they uphold their oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Is that truly so difficult?
Run for office. We live in a representative government. Attorneys do not represent us. Big businessmen do not represent the people. The people represent the people. Construction workers represent the people. Small businesses, mom and pop stores, those represent the people. If you don't think you're qualified, are you one of the people? If you're the people, you can represent the people.
All right, so President Bush and Vice President Cheney might want to steer clear of Vermont for a little while. That's because voters in a couple of towns have approved these measures calling for the indictment of the president and vice president, quote, for violating the Constitution.